She posted, "Cheating isn't wrong if you're not happy," during our anniversary weekend. I screenshotted it and sent it to her job's HR, since she worked in marriage counseling. They found it concerning. She was let go for ethical conflicts. Then I let her go too. She's still unemployed and single. Hey Reddit, using a throwaway because this whole situation is still pretty fresh, and I don't need the drama following me to my main account where I post about normal stuff like video games and craft beer reviews. I 31 male, and until recently, I was with Monica, 29 female, for about 3.5 years. We met at a mutual friend's birthday party at this trendy rooftop bar downtown. She was working as a junior marriage counselor at this family therapy clinic, and I thought it was cool that she was helping couples work through their problems. Seemed like someone with good values, you know? Someone who believed in commitment and working through issues, instead of just bailing when things got tough. I work in IT for a mid-sized company. Nothing glamorous, but it pays well, and I genuinely enjoy solving problems and fixing things. Monica always said she admired how methodical and logical I was, how I could break down complex issues and find solutions. She said it made her feel secure, like I was someone who would stick around and figure things out instead of running at the first sign of trouble. The first year was honestly great. Monica was sweet, thoughtful, and seemed genuinely interested in building something real together. She'd text me random articles about relationships she thought I'd find interesting, cook dinner for us on weekends, and always wanted to hear about my day. We had this routine where we'd go for walks after dinner, just talking about whatever was on our minds. She was easy to be around, didn't create drama, and my friends all liked her. We moved in together after about 14 months. My lease was up and her apartment was bigger, so it made sense financially. Plus, things were going well, and it felt like a natural next step. Monica had this 2-bedroom place in a decent neighborhood that she split with her roommate Sarah, but Sarah was moving out to live with her boyfriend, so the timing worked perfectly. Living together revealed some quirks, but nothing major. Monica was a little messier than me, left dishes in the sink longer than I preferred, but she made up for it in other ways. She was great at planning fun weekend activities, remembered important dates, and was generally considerate about shared spaces. We split expenses fairly. I paid rent since I made more. She covered groceries and utilities. Seemed balanced. The second year is when I started noticing some changes, but subtle ones that I initially brushed off. Monica began spending more time on social media, particularly Instagram, and this app called Be Real, where people post unfiltered moments of their day. She'd always been active online, but now she was constantly checking notifications, posting stories, engaging with people I'd never heard of. When I'd ask about her day, she'd mention these new friends from work or from online communities she'd joined, names I didn't recognize, people she'd never introduced me to or suggested we hang out with as a couple. Not necessarily red flags, but it felt like she was building this whole social circle that existed completely separate from our relationship. She also started getting really into self-improvement content, podcasts about manifestation and knowing your worth, books about setting boundaries and not settling for less than you deserve. Again, not inherently bad stuff, but she'd make these little comments afterward like, "Some people just accept mediocrity because it's comfortable," or "You have to advocate for what you need in relationships." Always felt vaguely directed at me, but when I'd ask if there was something specific she wanted to talk about, she'd say everything was fine. Around the 2-year mark, Monica got promoted to senior marriage counselor at her clinic. She was really excited about it, and I was proud of her. The promotion came with a significant pay raise and more independence in choosing her clients and methods. She started working later, taking on more challenging cases, and attending these professional development workshops on weekends. That's when the real changes started. Monica became obsessed with what she called authentic living. She'd come home from these workshops talking about how most people live inauthentic lives, staying in situations that don't serve them, because they're afraid of change. She started questioning everything, our routines, our plans, even little things like where we ordered takeout from, or what shows we watched together. "We're so predictable," she'd say, not like it was comforting, but like it was a problem that needed solving. "When's the last time we did something spontaneous? When's the last time either of us took a real risk?" I'd suggest weekend trips or trying new restaurants, but that wasn't what she meant. She wanted bigger changes, more dramatic shifts. She started talking about people needing to level up constantly, about how settling for comfort was the enemy of growth. The sex life changed too. Monica had always been pretty straightforward about what she wanted, but now she seemed distracted, like she was going through the motions. She'd be on her phone right after, scrolling through Instagram or texting people. When I'd try to cuddle or talk afterward, she'd make excuses about needing to prepare for work or respond to client messages. She also became weirdly secretive about her phone, Before, she'd leave it lying around, ask me to check messages if she was driving, no big deal. But now she'd take it with her to the bathroom, angle the screen away when we were watching TV together, get irritated if I glanced over when notifications came in. The worst part was how she started talking about her clients. Obviously, she couldn't share specific details because of confidentiality, but she'd make these general observations that felt pointed. So many people stay in relationships just because they're comfortable, even when they've outgrown their partner, she'd say over dinner. Or, I see couples all the time where one person has evolved and the other is still stuck in the same patterns. When I'd ask if she was talking about us, she'd laugh it off. Everything isn't about you, Jake. I'm just sharing insights from work. But the timing and tone made it clear she was. I tried addressing it directly a few times. Asked if she was happy, if there was anything she needed from me, if we should talk about where our relationship was headed. She'd always deflect, say she was just processing a lot of new ideas from work and her personal growth journey, that I was overthinking things. Not every conversation has to be relationship analysis, she'd say. Sometimes I just want to share thoughts without you turning it into a whole thing. So I backed off. Figured maybe she was right and I was being too sensitive. Maybe the promotion was stressing her out and she needed space to adjust. Maybe I was reading too much into casual comments. But the comments kept coming. About people who settle. About relationships that look good on paper but lack passion. About how some people are more willing to take risks than others. Always delivered like general observations, but the context made the target obvious. Meanwhile, Monica was spending more time at work functions, networking events, and these professional meetups. She'd come home energized in a way I hadn't seen in months, talking about all these fascinating conversations she'd had with colleagues I'd never met. When I'd suggest meeting some of these people she was spending so much time with, she'd say work relationships were complicated and it was better to keep things separate. Then came her social media posts. Monica had always shared motivational quotes occasionally, but now her Instagram was full of these pointed messages about self-worth and not accepting less than you deserve. Things like, your comfort zone is a beautiful place, but nothing ever grows there. And sometimes the person you were when you entered a relationship isn't the person you are when you need to leave it. Her friends would comment with flame emojis and "Yes, Queen" type responses. I'd see mutual acquaintances liking these posts, people who knew we were together. It felt humiliating, like everyone could read between the lines except me. When I brought it up, Monica got defensive. It's just social media, Jake. Why are you monitoring my posts like some kind of stalker? I'm allowed to share things that inspire me. I wasn't monitoring anything. But when your girlfriend posts daily content about outgrowing relationships and refusing to settle, it's hard not to notice, especially when she'd never talked to you directly about being unhappy. The final straw building up to our anniversary weekend was this dinner we had with my college roommate Tom and his wife Lisa. They were in town for the weekend and wanted to catch up. Throughout dinner, Monica was clearly bored, kept checking her phone, barely engaged with the conversation. Tom and Lisa noticed. I could tell from the looks they exchanged. At one point, Lisa was telling a funny story about their recent vacation, and Monica just stared at her phone the entire time, not even pretending to listen. When Lisa finished, Monica looked up and said, "Sorry, work emergency," even though I could see she was scrolling through TikTok. In the car afterward, I said something about how rude that was, how Tom and Lisa were important to me, and I'd wanted them to like her. Monica exploded. "I'm not performing monkey for your friends, Jake. I'm not going to fake enthusiasm for boring suburban couple stories just because you think that's what girlfriends are supposed to do. Maybe if you had more interesting friends, I'd be more engaged." Tom and Lisa are great people. Tom's a teacher, Lisa works for a nonprofit. They're kind, genuine, and fun to be around. The fact that Monica found them boring said more about where her head was. After that fight, than anything things got even more distant between us. Monica would come home, eat dinner while scrolling her phone, then disappear into the bedroom to decompress. We barely talked beyond logistics, whose turn it was to buy groceries, when rent was due, whether we needed to call the maintenance guy about the bathroom sink. I started wondering if I was just holding on to something that was already over. But every time I considered bringing up the possibility of taking a break or having a serious conversation about our future, Monica would have a good day, where she'd be sweet and affectionate, making me think maybe things were just temporarily rough. Then our 3-year anniversary was coming up. I thought it might be a good opportunity to reconnect. Maybe have some honest conversations about where we stood and what we both wanted going forward. I booked us a weekend at this bed and breakfast, about 2 hours away that Monica had mentioned wanting to visit. Nothing too expensive, but nice enough to feel special. Monica seemed pleased when I told her about the reservation. "That's really thoughtful, babe. I think we could use some time away from all the usual distractions." She even initiated sex that night for the first time in weeks, which felt like a positive sign. The drive up was actually pleasant. Monica was in a good mood. We listened to music she'd picked, stopped at this cute roadside farm stand to buy local honey and jam. She took photos of everything for Instagram, but seemed genuinely excited about the weekend. I started feeling optimistic that maybe we'd turned a corner. The B&B was perfect. This restored Victorian house, with antique furniture, a huge clawfoot tub, and a view of rolling hills from our room. Monica loved it, kept talking about how romantic and peaceful it was. We had dinner at the restaurant downstairs, shared a bottle of wine, talked more than we had in months. Not about anything deep, but normal couple conversation. What we wanted to do the next day, places we might visit, that kind of thing. That night was the first time in forever that intimacy felt natural instead of obligatory. Monica was present, affectionate, seemed genuinely happy to be there with me. I went to sleep thinking maybe the promotion stress was finally settling down, and we could get back to being us. Saturday morning started well too. We slept in, had breakfast in bed, took a walk around the property. Monica was taking tons of photos, of the scenery, of us together, of the cute details around the inn. She posted a few to her Instagram story with captions like "needed this" and "perfect weekend vibes." The trouble started Saturday afternoon. We were sitting on the porch reading. I had a mystery novel, Monica was flipping through some psychology journal, when her phone started buzzing with notifications. At first she ignored them, but they kept coming. Finally she checked, and I could see her face change. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Yeah, just some drama with my friend Kira. Her boyfriend found out she's been seeing someone else and he's losing his mind." I didn't know who Kira was, but infidelity drama seemed like the kind of thing Monica would want to stay out of, especially given her profession. That sucks. Hopefully they can work it out. Monica gave me this look like I'd said something naive. Work it out? Jake, some relationships aren't meant to be worked out. Some people just aren't compatible long term, and staying together becomes more harmful than separating. But cheating isn't the answer, I said. If you're unhappy, you should either address it or leave, not lie and sneak around. "It's not that simple," Monica replied, her attention already back on her phone. "You can't always control when you meet someone who changes your perspective on what you want." The way she said it made my stomach twist, but I tried to give her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe she was just thinking about it from a clinical perspective, trying to understand her friend's situation. But then Monica started typing furiously on her phone, clearly engaged in some intense conversation. She'd put the phone down for a few minutes, then pick it back up to respond to new messages. I tried to focus on my book, but it was impossible to ignore how animated she was getting about this friend's drama. Around 4 p.m., I suggested we walk into town, maybe grab coffee and look at the antique shops. Monica said she needed a few more minutes to help Kira through her crisis, that she'd meet me downstairs in 20 minutes. An hour later, she was still on the phone in our room. I could hear her through the door. Not the words, but the tone. Excited, engaged, laughing occasionally. Not the voice of someone providing counseling to a friend in crisis. When she finally came down, she was glowing. Energetic in a way I hadn't seen in months. "Sorry about that," she said, not sounding sorry at all. Kira really needed to talk through some things. We did the town walk, but Monica was distracted the whole time. She'd respond to my comments with while typing on her phone, barely looked at anything in the shops, seemed eager to get back to the room. At dinner that night, she was practically vibrating with energy. Kept bringing up her friend's situation, talking about how sometimes people need to follow their hearts, even when it's complicated. How judging others for their choices is limiting and small-minded. "I just think it's interesting how quickly people condemn cheating without understanding the full context," she said over dessert. "Like, what if someone is in a relationship that's not meeting their needs, but they're not sure how to address it without hurting their partner? What if they meet someone who shows them what they're missing? Then they should be honest about it," I said. "Even if it's hard, lying and sneaking around is always worse than having a difficult conversation." Monica shrugged. "Easy to say when you're not in that situation. Real life is messier than relationship advice columns." That night, Monica was on her phone until almost 2 a.m. She claimed she was reading articles for work, but I could see the reflection of her screen in the mirror across from our bed. Social media, messaging apps, not work-related content. Sunday morning, instead of the lazy breakfast and checkout we'd planned, Monica was up early, immediately reaching for her phone. She spent the entire morning glued to it, barely speaking to me except to answer direct questions with one-word responses. "Ready to head back?" I asked around 11 a.m. "Actually, can we leave a little early? I promised Kira I'd call her before 2 p.m., and I want to make sure we're home with good service." The drive back was tense. Monica spent most of it texting, only looking up to give me directions or respond to questions about lunch stops. The sweet, connected feeling from Friday night Felt like it had happened months ago instead of 2 days. But the real bomb dropped that afternoon. We got back to our apartment around 1 p.m. Monica immediately went to our bedroom to call Kira, shutting the door behind her. I could hear her talking animatedly, laughing, using that flirty tone she used to use with me when we first started dating. I tried to give her privacy, unpacked our weekend bags, did some laundry, made myself a sandwich. But after 2 hours of hearing her giggle and whisper into the phone, I was getting suspicious. This didn't sound like counseling a friend through relationship drama. Around 4 p.m., Monica finally emerged from the bedroom. She was glowing again, that same energetic happiness from the day before. "I'm going to meet Kira for coffee," she announced. "She really needs in-person support right now." "I thought you were helping her deal with cheating drama," I said. "Why would she need to meet in public? Isn't she trying to keep things quiet?" Monica's expression flickered for just a second. "It's complicated. Sometimes face-to-face conversation is more helpful than phone calls. I might be late getting back. She's really going through it." She left around 4:30, dressed up in a way that seemed excessive for comforting a friend in crisis. Cute sundress, full makeup, jewelry I'd given her for her last birthday. When I commented that she looked nice, she said, "I just want to feel put together when I'm supporting someone through a difficult time." That evening, alone in our apartment, I found myself thinking about everything that had happened over the past few months. The distance, the social media posts, the comments about people settling and outgrowing relationships, Monica's sudden investment in her friend's cheating drama, the phone calls and texts that required so much privacy. I wasn't trying to snoop, but when I opened Instagram to check something work-related that a colleague had tagged me in, Monica's story popped up at the top of my feed. She'd posted a photo from our weekend, the two of us on the B&B porch, but the caption made my blood freeze. "Perfect weekend to gain some clarity. Remember, cheating isn't wrong if you're not happy. Life's too short to settle for comfortable instead of magical. Authentic. No regrets, Naruto, follow your heart." I stared at the screen for a full minute, reading the caption over and over, thinking maybe I'd misunderstood. But no, there it was in black and white. My girlfriend of 3.5 years, who worked as a marriage counselor, had just posted to her 800+ followers that cheating was acceptable if you were unhappy. On our anniversary weekend, using a photo of us together. I took a screenshot immediately, though I'm not sure why. Instinct maybe? Or shock. Then I scrolled through the comments that were already pouring in. Her work friend Sarah had commented, "Yes, queen. You deserve everything." Some guy I'd never heard of named Marcus. Finally someone with sense. Honesty is overrated. Her cousin Jen, "Life's too short, babe. Do what makes you happy." More comments in the same vein, all encouraging this mindset that dishonesty was fine as long as it served your personal happiness. People who knew she was in a relationship with me, cheering on what was obviously a justification for cheating. I sat there for probably an hour, just processing. Everything made sense now. The distance, the secrecy, the phone calls, the social media posts about not settling. Monica wasn't going through some professional growth phase or adjustment period from her promotion. She was cheating on me. Worse, she was publicly announcing that she thought cheating was morally acceptable, using our anniversary weekend as the backdrop for this declaration. And she worked as a marriage counselor, a profession built on helping couples build trust and communication. The hypocrisy was staggering. I screenshotted the post and all the comments, then started thinking about what to do next. I could confront Monica when she got home from her coffee with Kira, but what was the point? She'd already decided that cheating wasn't wrong if she was unhappy. She'd already chosen her path. But then I remembered something Monica had mentioned when she got her promotion. Her clinic had strict ethical guidelines for staff, particularly around social media presence and public statements that might conflict with their professional mission. They'd even had training sessions about maintaining appropriate boundaries and messaging. A marriage counselor publicly stating that cheating was acceptable seemed like exactly the kind of thing her employer would want to know about. I found the clinic's website and located their human resources contact information. The HR director was named Patricia Wells, and there was a form for reporting ethical concerns about staff members. I filled it out carefully, explaining that I was reporting a staff member who had made public statements contradicting the clinic's mission and professional standards. I attached screenshots of Monica's post and comments, along with a brief explanation of her role at the clinic. I didn't mention that I was her boyfriend. That seemed like it would complicate things. I just presented it as a concerned community member who had seen a marriage counselor publicly endorsing infidelity and thought the clinic should be aware. I submitted the report around 10 p.m., just as Monica was texting that she'd be staying out late to continue supporting Kira through her difficult time. Monday morning, Monica left for work before I was fully awake, which was unusual. Normally, we'd have coffee together and talk about our plans for the day. but she was gone by 7 a.m. with just a note saying she had early meetings. I went to work trying to focus on normal tasks, but kept checking my phone for updates. Around 11 a.m., I got a text from Monica. Having a weird day at work. Talk tonight? By 3 p.m. Can you come home early? Something happened. I left work around 4:30 and found Monica sitting at our kitchen table with red eyes and a box of tissues. She looked up when I walked in, and I could see she'd been crying for hours. They fired me, she said without preamble. Someone reported my Instagram post to HR. They said it represented an ethical conflict with my professional responsibilities and terminated my employment, effective immediately. I sat down across from her, trying to look surprised. What Instagram post? She pulled out her phone and showed me the anniversary weekend post. The one about cheating not being wrong if you're unhappy. This one, from yesterday. Someone screenshot it and sent it to Patricia in HR with a complaint about my professional conduct. Who would do that? I asked. I have no idea. It could have been anyone who follows me. Maybe someone who has something against the clinic, or against me personally. Patricia wouldn't tell me who made the report, just that they had concerns about a staff member publicly endorsing infidelity when our whole mission is helping couples build trust. Monica started crying again. They said it showed poor judgment and called into question my ability to provide ethical marriage counseling. They were worried about what clients would think if they saw it, or what it said about my personal values, and how that might affect my professional work. I made sympathetic noises while she talked, but internally I was thinking about how completely reasonable her employer's response was. Who would trust a marriage counselor who thought cheating was acceptable? How could she provide effective couples therapy if she believed dishonesty was fine, as long as it served personal happiness? I tried to explain that it was just a general philosophical statement, not specific advice or anything related to my clients, Monica continued, but they said it didn't matter. Public social media posts reflect on the clinic's reputation and values, and this one was completely inconsistent with what we're supposed to stand for. She looked at me with these desperate eyes. Jake, I might lose my license over this. The clinic is reporting the incident to the state licensing board. They're saying it represents a fundamental misunderstanding of professional ethics. Can you appeal it or something? I asked. I can try, but Patricia made it clear they'd already made up their minds. She said they'd received complaints about my social media before. Apparently some of my other posts about authentic living and not settling raised concerns too. But this was the final straw. Monica spent the next few hours spiraling, calling employment lawyers, researching her options, trying to figure out how to salvage her career. She was convinced someone had targeted her specifically, that this was personal rather than professional. Who would even be monitoring my social media that closely? She kept asking. It has to be someone who knows me, someone who wanted to cause problems. I just listened and offered generic support, but I was also watching her carefully. Not once during this entire meltdown did she acknowledge that maybe, just maybe, posting that cheating was acceptable while working as a marriage counselor had been a bad idea. Not once did she seem to understand why her employer might have legitimate concerns about her judgment and values. She was entirely focused on being a victim of unfair treatment, not on the possibility that her actions had consequences. That evening, Monica's phone was blowing up with texts from friends and coworkers who'd heard about her firing. Instead of laying low and trying to rebuild her reputation, she was telling everyone who would listen about how unfairly she'd been treated, how the clinic had overreacted to a harmless social media post. She even called her parents to complain, describing herself as a victim of workplace harassment and claiming she was being punished for expressing her personal opinions. I listened to these calls and felt my remaining sympathy evaporate. Monica had publicly endorsed cheating on our anniversary weekend, likely while actively cheating on me, and her only concern was how unfair it was that she'd faced professional consequences. Tuesday morning, I made my decision. Monica was still in bed when I left for work, claiming she was too upset to get up. I spent the day thinking about everything that had led to this point. The months of distance and dishonesty, the social media posts about outgrowing relationships, the secretive behavior, and finally the public declaration that cheating was acceptable. I realized I'd been trying to save a relationship that Monica had already ended in her mind. She'd just been too cowardly to tell me directly. When I got home Tuesday evening, Monica was on the couch in pajamas, surrounded by tissues and legal documents she'd printed out about wrongful termination. She looked up hopefully when I walked in. I found a lawyer who thinks I might have a case, she said. He says firing someone for personal social media posts could be considered overreach, especially since I didn't name the clinic or reference my job specifically. I sat down in the chair across from her, instead of joining her on the couch like I normally would. Monica, we need to talk about something else. Her face fell. Can it wait? I'm really struggling with this work situation and I need your support right now. Who's Kira? I asked. The color drained from her face. What do you mean? Your friend who was dealing with cheating drama this weekend. The one you spent hours on the phone with. The one you went to have coffee with Sunday night. Who is she? Monica's mouth opened and closed a few times before she managed. She's just a friend. I told you that. I don't think she exists, I said calmly. I think Kira is code for whoever you've been cheating on me with. I think that Instagram post wasn't philosophical commentary. It was you justifying your own behavior. That's insane, Monica said, but her voice was shaking. Why would you even think that? I pulled out my phone and showed her the screenshot of her post. Because on our anniversary weekend, you posted that cheating isn't wrong if you're not happy. You used a photo of us together while announcing to the world that infidelity is acceptable. Either you were sending me a message, or you were talking about yourself. Monica started crying again, but these tears felt different. Panicked instead of sad. It wasn't about us, she insisted. It was just a general statement about relationships. You're being paranoid. Am I? Because you've been distant for months, secretive with your phone, making comments about people who settle and outgrow their partners. You've been posting constantly about authentic living and not accepting less than you deserve. And now you're defending cheating while claiming it's just philosophical. I stood up and looked down at her. I don't need you to confirm it, Monica. I already know. The only question is whether you're going to be honest about it or keep lying. She was quiet for a long time, just crying and staring at her hands. Finally, she looked up at me. It's not what you think, she said quietly. What is it then? I met someone a few months ago, at one of those professional development workshops. We just connected in a way that felt different, more intense, like we understood each other on a deeper level. My stomach twisted, but I kept my voice steady. And you've been seeing him. Not seeing him, she said quickly. Just talking, getting to know each other, exploring what it might mean. Is that what you were doing all weekend while I thought we were celebrating our anniversary? Fresh tears started flowing. I didn't plan it. He just happened to text right when we got to the B&B, and we started talking about his own relationship situation. He's going through something similar, feeling stuck with someone who doesn't really get him anymore. So you spent our anniversary weekend having an emotional affair with some guy who's also in a relationship. It's not an affair, she protested. We haven't done anything physical. We're just figuring things out. And the Instagram post? She wiped her eyes. I was just feeling so clear about everything for the first time in months. Like I finally understood what I needed and deserved. It felt liberating to say that out loud. I nodded slowly. Okay, thank you for finally being honest. Monica looked hopeful for a second, like maybe this meant we could work through it. Here's what's going to happen, I continued. You're going to move out of my apartment. This relationship is over. Her face crumpled. Jake, please, we can figure this out. I made a mistake, but we can work through it. That's what couples do. No, that's what couples do when someone makes a mistake and takes responsibility for it. What you did was spend months planning your exit while lying to my face about it. You had an emotional affair during our anniversary weekend and then posted publicly that cheating is acceptable. This isn't a mistake, it's a pattern of choices. But I haven't even done anything physical with him, she said desperately. It's just emotional connection. We can rebuild that between us. I don't want to rebuild it, I told her. I want to be with someone who wouldn't need to rebuild trust because they wouldn't break it in the first place. Someone who thinks honesty matters more than personal convenience. Monica begged and pleaded for the next 2 hours, cycling through denial, bargaining, anger, and back to begging. She promised to cut contact with the other guy, delete her social media, go to counseling, anything to salvage our relationship. But I was done. The woman I'd fallen in love with, who I'd thought shared my values about commitment and communication, had turned out to be someone who could justify betrayal as personal growth and lie about it for months while planning her escape. I told her she had a week to find somewhere else to live. The next few days were hell. Monica alternated between tearful apologies and angry accusations. One minute she'd be sobbing about how sorry she was and how much she loved me. The next she'd be screaming about how controlling and inflexible I was, how I couldn't appreciate her emotional needs or personal growth. She also started blaming me for her job loss, claiming that if I hadn't been so jealous and paranoid about her social media posts, she never would have felt the need to express herself so publicly. According to her, my lack of emotional support had driven her to seek connection elsewhere, and my possessive behavior had somehow caused her professional downfall. I didn't respond to any of it, just helped her pack her stuff and arranged for her to stay with her friend Sarah temporarily. The day she moved out, Monica made one last plea. You're going to regret this, she said. We had something real, and you're throwing it away because you can't handle me growing as a person. You'll never find someone who understands you like I do. I hope that's not true, I replied. Because the way you understand me apparently includes thinking I'm stupid enough to believe transparent lies for months. That was 3 months ago. I found out through mutual friends that Monica never did pursue that wrongful termination lawsuit. Turns out when your lawyer finds out you posted publicly about cheating being acceptable while working as a marriage counselor, they don't see much chance of winning a case about unfair treatment. She's still unemployed. The licensing board investigation is ongoing, and she's finding it hard to get interviews in her field. Apparently, word spreads quickly in the marriage counseling community, especially when someone's professional judgment becomes questionable in such a public way. The guy she was having the emotional affair with, his name is Marcus, same one who commented on her post, apparently decided his own relationship was worth saving after all. According to Sarah, who heard it from someone else, he cut contact with Monica after his girlfriend found out about their friendship and gave him an ultimatum. So Monica is single, unemployed, and dealing with a potential licensing issue that could end her career permanently. She's moved back in with her parents temporarily, which I'm sure is going great for someone who is all about authentic living and personal growth. She's tried reaching out a few times, mostly through mutual friends or social media accounts I haven't blocked yet. The messages follow a predictable pattern, either angry ones about how I ruined her life by reporting her to HR. She figured out it was me after thinking about who had access to her posts and motivation to cause problems. Or sad ones about how much she misses me and wants to work things out. I don't respond to any of them. What would be the point? Last week, I ran into her at the grocery store. She looked terrible, like she hadn't been sleeping or taking care of herself. She tried to start a conversation, asking how I was doing, mentioning that she was working on getting her career back on track. I was polite but brief. I hope things work out for you, Monica. Take care. As I walked away, I heard her call after me. I never meant for things to end this way. I really did love you. Maybe that was even true. But love without honesty, commitment, or respect isn't actually love. It's just convenient companionship until something better comes along. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way.